good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tuesday's Market Situation Report. SITREP at Top Gun Options. I'm Wiz, Matthew Buckley, and let's get to it. S&P 500 just kind of drifting higher here on relatively nothing. Dow's up about 30, S&P's up about 3-ish. Just kind of drifting higher towards record highs on nothing. Mixed earnings today. McDonald's miss a lot of stuff. Tomorrow and Thursday are pretty big days. Obviously, we care really a lot about Thursday and Amazon, but this really isn't anything to be bullish about here. Obviously, the biggest thing on our radar is out to next week, the Fed meeting. We had some real estate numbers that came in pretty soft, which we'll go over here in a couple minutes. But let's lead with Raytheon. So this time last week, we did our primary live trade brief during our free full throttle week. We talked about adding a new bull put spread on Raytheon, the 195, 192.5 out to November 1st. Nice pop today at Raytheon, up 7% right now. I'd go ahead and close the spread from last week. Check this out. So it was the 195. 192.5 bull put spread at 70 cents. That was risking about $5,400 to make $2,100. You can close that right now. It looks like for about $900 profit in a week. That is a 43% gain. I'd go ahead and close that now, mainly because if you take a look at Raytheon here, we got earnings coming up on the 24th. Now, I was thinking about holding these through this position through earnings, but this is mainly on, and me being bullish on Raytheon is mainly on potential conflict between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Talking to some folks in the know, they don't think it's happening between now and Thursday when Raytheon would be reporting earnings. So let's go ahead and I'd close that one. I never got filled on that one. I chased it around for a little bit last week, didn't get filled, but I'd go ahead and close that. Hey, $900 in a week beats a stick in the eye. Check out the other trade that we covered last Tuesday, the FXI, which is the iShares China ETF, the 42.5 out to this Friday. Let's take a look at how that is doing. Look at that. Up net gain is $739, $1,800 swing today, up about 14%. I'm going to hold that one obviously until Friday. Let's take a look at FXI, and then we'll dig into what's going on here in China. So down, 0.5%, down to 41.44. So that's a good looking trade right there. And then obviously we put on a 2.5 day trade yesterday in SPX bear call spread out to tomorrow, expires Wednesday afternoon. The 30-20, 30-21.5 bear call spread, and that's essentially flat-ish right now as we just wallow around here. And the other trade that we did last Tuesday was a one-day bear call spread on the S&P 500, the 30-10, 30-15 bear call spread. That expired last Wednesday for a nice one-day profit of about $2,000. So nice, great time last week in full throttle. And as many of you know, we closed the doors actually Thursday, a day early for full throttle. We got 50 people. By Thursday, I think it was Thursday morning, not even before we did the afternoon brief. We did open up the doors to our solo Amazon service, since that can take more people. It's it's our lowest entry-level membership service at only $97 a month. All you need to do is head to go.topgunoptions.com/solo. We did a great brief yesterday, about an hour long, where we covered putting on base positions in both those, Amazon and XLY. So if you want to give that a test flight for a month, or you can get a 25% discount today, $897 for a year. The Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Kurds clown car continues. Our troops pulling out the other day were, they had food thrown at them by the Kurds, and a lot of protests as we pulled out of that region. So interesting stuff going on. Erdogan actually flew to Sochi to meet with President Putin. This is a NATO member country, right? If the Article 5 responsibility and everything like that, this is just Turkey needs to be booted out of NATO. Go join the Warsaw Pact, Turkey. Thank God we didn't sell them the F-35. They took the Russian air defense system instead. That's the world we live in, when so-called allies are hanging out with who our so-called enemy is. Turkey needs to go. It's a radical Islamic dictatorship now under Erdogan, and it's sad. It's a great country. People in Turkey are great. I've been to Incirlik Air Base, and it's sad. Chinese Vice Foreign Minister says progress made in trade talks with the U.S. So here we go with round 15 of these talks. Well, no, we're not going to call it round 15. So the United States is coming up with a new strategy. Let's call them phases. So we're going to try and get phase one agreed to before the president and Xi Jinping meet down in Chile, in Santiago, and hopefully they'll get something done. I'm a seller of all this crap, folks. It makes it's old. Remember the old days a year and a half ago, where Trump, walking out to the helicopter could move the market 500-600 points with a, hey, great call, Xi, huge deal, sooner than you think. Nothing. Survey yesterday that I took a look at, 40% of the respondents in the financial industry and CEOs said that there ain't going to be an end to the trade war. This is the new normal. Welcome to the new normal. So that's an interesting take on it. So, but Larry Kudlow is still running around out there like Mr. Magoo, trying to be the market whisperer, saying December tariffs could be taken off if China talks go well. What talks? It's kind of at the lieutenant level. Mnuchin and Lighthizer said, hey, we might have to jump on a plane and fly over and talk in China before they meet in Santiago. But it's all nothing. There's nothing going on with the trade talk. So I think in the absence of horrific news, this market's just kind of melting or drifting higher, and that's never a good thing, right? But China's really getting bloodied here, and you have to keep your eye on really what this is all about. This is about China's strategic dominance in the region, and it's about Hong Kong. Why Hong Kong matters so much to China. If you're a Wall Street Journal member, I strongly recommend you read this article today. It is a fantastic read, and this is why there ain't going to be no trade deal if Hong Kong gets worse and gets bloodier. This is a massive financial center in the Far East, folks, or the world. I've been to Hong Kong several times. Did a lot of drinking out in Kowloon, in the Kowloon district. So on the Abraham Lincoln and the Kitty. I loved Hong Kong. Absolutely beautiful city, just teeming with people. It was so cool. I loved it. But China ain't going to let this go so easily. And it's Hong Kong stands out from its mainland China rivals for its rule of law, competent regulators, low taxes, free movement of capital, and it speaks English. During these protests, a lot of people running around out there have American flags, and they're writing graffiti up on some of the walls that are Thomas Paine, right, or no, Patrick Henry. Give me liberty, give me death. They're running around with signs that say this is why we need our own Second Amendment. This is insane. We know that Hong Kong is critically important because if China is allowed to successfully crack down on Hong Kong, they're going to move and literally take over Taiwan. Big swing in the S&P 500. As I'm talking here, the Dow's dropping and the S&P's dropping, so that's really helping our bearish trades here, which is fantastic. Sweet. Keep going lower. U.S. stocks tick higher, and they're going lower. As I'm speaking, the S&P is now red, and the Dow's starting to get red, which means I got to jump off this and figure out why is the market rolling over a little bit here, which is fantastic. U.S. stocks were higher amid a slew of corporate results. I'm telling you, man, it's your standard Wall Street earnings period that they've really conditioned us to accept. If they can't hit the ball over the net, Wall Street lowers the net. They've pre-warned. They said this is going to be awful. And then when things are slightly less awful, stocks go up, which doesn't work for long. Okay. Goldman, big article the other day, or report that came out that said share buybacks are plummeting, adding a big source of buying power for the market. And the Federal Reserve kind of stepping in lately with a pseudo QE4 isn't necessarily, bullish. CEO confidence plunges. Consumers won't like what's going to happen next. And as I said, we got some weak housing numbers. Existing home sales. Look at that. Yikes. That was not a good print for existing home sales. So as we kind of drift and wallow around here, all eyes are going to be on the Fed next week. I don't care that the Fed funds futures rate says a 90% probability of a 25-point basis cut. I'm telling you, man, if you listen to the Fed lieutenants that spoke last week, two of the doves, the Chicago Fed chief and the Dallas Fed chief, both said last week, they were previous supporters of a cut, said, no, I think we're good the rest of the year. Listen to what they say, not to what the market's telling them to do. You know, the Fed doesn't like the position it's been in recently, which is kind of like, hey, we tell the Fed when to cut. And that doesn't work for the Fed. I think they're going to want to take controls back of this aircraft relatively soon. Okay, I got to get going. I want to see why the market's rolling over, which is great news for a lot of our positions. And then I'll see many of you at 1 o'clock for our primary live trade brief. If you want to give solo options a shot, head to go.topgunoptions.com/solo. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see many of you at 1 o'clock. God bless.